You're telling me they fight manually? Chancellor Zixtal's primary breathing sac deflated with such force that his aide had to steady himself against the sudden gust. Like, with their actual appendages? That's correct, Your Luminance. The aide, V8, adjusted his ceremonial data collar before continuing. The humans don't just command their combat units remotely. They physically enter the battlefield, with their bodies, their squishy, extremely mortal bodies. The Chancellor's secondary breathing sac now joined in on the wheezing laughter. That's the most absurd thing I've heard since the Glorban tried to claim they invented FTL travel while simultaneously not knowing which end of their ship was the front. If I may, Your Luminance. V8 pulled up a holographic display from his collar, showing footage from the recent skirmish at the Perseus Arm border. This may help illustrate the situation. The footage showed a standard Confederation peacekeeping operation. Sleek, chrome-plated combat drones efficiently maintaining order with precise plasma bursts and calculated maneuvers. Everything was going according to standard protocol until it wasn't. The first human ship didn't so much land as it did crash with style. The impact crater hadn't even stopped smoking when figures started pouring out. Actual organic beings running straight toward the combat zone. Not commanding robots, not deploying drones, just flesh and bone, mostly bone given their horrifying skeletal structure, charging directly into battle. By the sacred gases, Chancellor Zixtal's third breathing sac joined the chorus of wheezing. They're not even properly armored. Look at that one. It's wearing fabric. Fabric. In a combat zone. That would be what they call a T-shirt, Your Luminance. Apparently it says, "Come and take it," with some kind of primitive projectile weapon depicted below the text. The footage continued, showing what could only be described as chaos theory applied to warfare, where Confederation forces moved with precise, programmed efficiency. The humans moved like organisms that had evolved on a planet that actively tried to kill them every single day of their existence. Which, as it turned out, was exactly what they were. A human female, recognizable by the slightly different arrangement of their curious head fur, was currently using a Confederation Mark VII combat drone as a makeshift batting implement to launch its own plasma core at 3 other drones. The resulting explosion took out 5 more units and created a perfectly good smokescreen, which she then used to advance while firing what appeared to be, and this made the Chancellor's fourth breathing sac engage in the wheezing, a chemical propulsion projectile weapon. "Are they using kinetic weapons?" the Chancellor sputtered. "In the year 7249, against energy-shielded opponents?" "Yes, Your Luminance, though they seem to have modified the ammunition. If we slow down the footage..." V8 adjusted the playback speed, revealing that the bullets appeared to be trailing some kind of thread? Are they using their primitive projectiles to deploy monofilament wire? The Chancellor's entire respiratory system was now fully engaged in what could only be described as a full-blown wheezing orchestra. They turned their antique weapons into delivery systems for advanced technology? Indeed, they call it upgrading. Though personally, I think committing war crimes against the laws of physics might be more accurate. The footage continued, showing more humans employing what could only be described as evolutionary advantages that shouldn't exist. One particularly large specimen was currently using their species' ridiculous endurance to simply chase down a hover tank. The tank, programmed for efficient combat against other vehicles and drones, seemed utterly confused by the organic being that just wouldn't stop pursuing it. How is it still running? That's been going on for 20 minutes. The Chancellor's breathing sacs were starting to hurt from the constant wheezing. Apparently humans evolved as persistence predators, Your Luminance. They would chase their prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. They called it persistence hunting. They hunted by being annoying until their prey just gave up? Essentially, yes. And they seem to have applied this principle to modern warfare. The tank's AI eventually suffered a logic failure trying to compute why the organic being wouldn't stop chasing it, leading to a system crash. The human then. V8 paused, checking his notes. And I quote from their after-action report, "Gave it the what for with my trusty sledgehammer." The footage shifted to another section of the battlefield, where a human was demonstrating why sending robots against creatures that evolved on a death world might have been a tactical error. The drone's combat protocols were designed to target other mechanical units or provide crowd control against civilized organic beings. They were not, as it turned out, equipped to handle someone who had grown up watching something called wrestling and had decided that a plasma rifle made an excellent impromptu lever for suplexing a military-grade combat robot. They're using the drone's own weight against them, the Chancellor observed, his breathing sacs now wheezing in what might have been horror, amusement, or both. The combat protocols don't account for being grabbed and thrown because no sane species would get close enough to try. Correct, Your Luminance. The humans appear to operate on the principle that anything can be a weapon, including the enemy's weapons, the enemy themselves, and occasionally the laws of physics. The holographic display showed another human, this one wearing what appeared to be formal business attire. They have categories of fabric armor? The Chancellor wheezed, using a drone's severed arm as a makeshift club. The improvised weapon was proving remarkably effective, especially since the drone's friend or foe recognition system still registered the arm as an allied unit, causing precious microseconds of computational confusion. But why? All 5 of the Chancellor's breathing sacs were now fully engaged in what could only be described as respiratory hysteria. Why would they fight like this when they have the technology for remote combat units? It's inefficient. It's dangerous. It's fun, according to their reports, V8 interjected. They appear to genuinely enjoy physical combat. Something about their evolution as pursuit predators combined with their species' unique ability to derive pleasure from dangerous activities. The footage shifted again, showing a human using what appeared to be a personal entertainment device to hack into and reprogram a squad of drones mid-battle. When V8 zoomed in on the human's face, they were clearly grinning. They're enjoying themselves? In combat? The Chancellor's breathing sacs were now wheezing in harmony, creating what could have been mistaken for a musical performance. Yes, Your Luminance. In fact, their combat effectiveness appears to increase proportionally with their level of amusement. The more absurd the situation, the more creatively they approach it, and the more successful they become. The holographic display showed the final moments of the battle. The Confederation forces, their combat protocols thoroughly confused by the combination of prehistoric hunting techniques, professional wrestling moves, and creative applications of both ancient and modern technology, were in full retreat. The humans, still on foot, were actually chasing them, showing no signs of fatigue despite having fought an entire battle without the aid of combat drones. The Chancellor's breathing sacs were now wheezing in what could only be described as resigned acceptance. This changes everything about our combat doctrine. Indeed, Your Luminance. The Strategic Command has already begun revising our military protocols, though I should note that their first suggestion of just run away from the crazy Deathworlders was rejected as being, quote, too obvious. And what do the humans think about all this? V8 pulled up one final piece of footage. A human commander giving their post-battle report. The audio was clear. Look, we get why everyone uses robot soldiers. They're efficient, replaceable, and you don't have to worry about casualties. But here's the thing. Humans have been fighting our own planet since we figured out how to stand upright. We've got millions of years of evolutionary programming telling us to solve problems by hitting them really hard with whatever's handy. Sure, we could use remote combat units, but where's the fun in that? The Chancellor's breathing sacs had finally run out of wheeze. Send a message to the Confederation Council. Tell them we need to revise the Geneva Conventions to include a clause about humans and their creative interpretation of what constitutes a weapon. Already done, Your Luminance. Though I should note that the humans have responded to the suggestion with something called laughter, and a message saying, and I quote, "Bold of you to assume we follow the first set of Geneva Conventions." The first set? There's more than one? Apparently, Your Luminance, humans have had to create multiple versions because they keep finding new ways to make the previous versions inadequate. The Chancellor's breathing sacs managed one final weak wheeze. Send another message to the Council. Tell them to reclassify humans not as Deathworlders, but as whatever's worse than that. The humans actually have a term for that, Your Luminance. They call it Australian. I don't know what that means, and I'm afraid to ask. A wise decision, Your Luminance. A wise decision indeed. 3 months later, the Confederation formally adopted a new combat doctrine. When humans are involved, send diplomats. It's cheaper than replacing the robots, and there's less property damage. Unless the diplomats are human too, in which case refer to emergency protocol. Oh, no, not again. The humans, for their part, considered this a tremendous compliment and celebrated by organizing what they called an intergalactic wrestling federation. The Confederation's insurance providers immediately filed for bankruptcy. And somewhere in the Perseus Arm, a lone Mark 7 combat drone is still running, pursued by a grinning human with a sledgehammer who just wants to show it. This really cool move I saw in a video game once. Some say if you listen closely on quiet nights, you can still hear its servos whirring in terror. So, let me get this straight. Ambassador Kist of the Confederation Diplomatic Corps massaged his sensory tendrils, feeling a migraine coming on. You challenged the Vraxian ambassador to a... what did you call it? Dance off, Human Ambassador Sarah Chen replied cheerfully, adjusting her now slightly singed formal diplomatic attire. In my defense, it was either that or let them declare war on the Arcturus sector over a misunderstanding about proper tea brewing temperature. And the reason the embassy's east wing is now a smoking crater? Turns out Vraxians take their dancing very seriously. Also, their cybernetic combat enhancements don't handle breakdancing very well. Who knew? Kest's tendrils drooped in resignation. The entire Confederation knew. That's why we switched to robot soldiers in the first place. Cybernetic enhancements have a tendency to malfunction when exposed to unexpected movement patterns. Yeah, but now we know they malfunction in a really spectacular way. Did you see that light show when Ambassador Zactix tried to attempt the worm? Beautiful. Terrible for the building's structural integrity, but beautiful. The footage playing on the embassy's surviving monitors showed the incident in high definition. Human Ambassador Chen, having apparently decided that traditional diplomatic channels were too boring, challenging the Vraxian delegation to a contest of rhythmic movement. The Vraxians, their species' infamous pride preventing them from declining, activated their combat enhancements to analyze and replicate the movements. This proved to be a critical error. Your species, Kest noted, watching as the recording showed a Vraxian diplomat's legs attempting to perform a complicated shuffle, while their upper body tried to process what humans called the robot, an ironic choice that wasn't lost on anyone. Seems to have a unique talent for finding the exact worst solution that somehow ends up working perfectly. We prefer to call it freestyle problem solving. Chen grinned, picking debris out of her hair. Besides, look at the bright side. The Vraxians were so impressed by their own malfunction-induced light show that they're now proposing an annual dance competition instead of their traditional war games. You turned an almost war into a dance competition? Well, yeah. Fighting is just angry dancing if you think about it. Ask any Australian. Kst had learned enough about humans to know that asking about Australia would only lead to more headaches. Instead, he focused on the more immediate concern. And the reason you're teaching the maintenance droids to, as you put it, get down with their bad selves? The camera feed switched to the embassy's main hall, where a group of cleaning units were attempting to master the basics of popping and locking. They weren't very good at it, but their enthusiasm, if maintenance droids could be said to have enthusiasm, was undeniable. Cultural exchange, Chen beamed. Also, we found out that teaching them dance moves dramatically improves their motor control and adaptation protocols. Something about learning to improvise makes them better at their jobs. One of them figured out how to clean the ceiling by incorporating backflips into its routine. As if on cue, a maintenance droid rolled past the window, its cleaning attachments moving in what could charitably be called a rhythm. It was humming something that sounded suspiciously like Stayin' Alive. The Artificial Intelligence Regulatory Committee is going to have opinions about this, Kest sighed. Oh, they already do. But after they saw how the dancing droids handled last week's plasma coolant leak, turns out moonwalking is incredibly effective for spreading emergency sealant evenly. They're considering making basic rhythm training mandatory for all maintenance units. The monitor now showed footage from said incident. A team of maintenance droids sliding backwards through the spilled coolant, their movements perfectly synchronized as they sealed the leak, while performing what appeared to be a choreographed routine. In the background, several human engineers were holding up scorecards. This isn't how diplomacy is supposed to work, Kaziti protested weakly. Sure it is. Diplomacy is just warfare by other means, and we already proved that humans have unique approaches to warfare. Speaking of which, have you signed up for next week's zero-gravity capoeira workshop? It's part of our new Combat Dancing for Diplomatic Corps initiative. Your species has weaponized dancing now? Oh, honey. Chen patted his tendrils sympathetically. We weaponized dancing before we invented writing. Why do you think our first contact package included both the complete works of Shakespeare and a compilation of dance battle videos. KZT's sensory organs picked up movement from the corridor. A maintenance droid had apparently mastered a basic spin move and was now attempting to teach it to its colleagues. The resulting display of mechanical enthusiasm was both heartwarming and vaguely terrifying. "You know," he said, watching as the droid's cleaning protocols merged with their newly acquired dance routines to create something that could only be described as aggressively efficient janitorial services. "This actually explains a lot about your species' approach to, well, everything." "How so?" "You don't just adapt to situations. You make the situations adapt to you, even when that should be physically, diplomatically, or mechanically impossible." "Aw, thanks," Chen beamed. "That's the nicest thing anyone's said about us since the Glorban ambassador called us terrifyingly creative after we solved their planetary defense crisis with a combination of disco lights and repurposed mining equipment." The embassy's speakers crackled to life, now playing what appeared to be a remix of classical Vraxian war hymns with a heavy bass line. The maintenance droids perked up noticeably, their cleaning routines becoming more elaborate. "Should I even ask about the music?" "Cultural fusion!" Chen was practically bouncing with excitement. "We found out that Vraxian combat algorithms respond really well to their traditional war songs, so we figured, why not combine that with Earth dance music? We're calling it Techno Quarter. Get it? Because it's techno music and also a reference to not giving quarter in battle?" "I understand the wordplay." KZT sighed. "I just don't understand how this has become our new diplomatic standard. Look at it this way. Since we introduced dance-based conflict resolution, interstellar incidents have dropped by 73%. Turns out it's really hard to maintain aggressive posturing when you're trying to figure out how to do the electric slide in zero gravity." A group of junior diplomats passed by the window, each wearing what appeared to be standard diplomatic attire modified for enhanced range of movement. Several were practicing what Chen had earlier described as sick moves. "The Council is going to have questions about all this," KZT warned. "Already handled. We're presenting it as a new form of diplomatic conditioning, building trust through shared embarrassment. It's basically game theory with added funk." "And the maintenance droids?" "Are now 40% more efficient at their jobs and have started organizing flash mobs during their charging cycles. We're calling it a complete success." KZT watched as a maintenance droid successfully completed a perfect headspin while simultaneously polishing the floor. "You know, a century ago, we thought giving robots sapience would be the biggest challenge in human-machine relations. And we never considered they might develop a sense of rhythm instead." Chen grinned, pulling up what appeared to be plans for something called the First Annual Intergalactic Robot Breakdancing Championship. "Just wait until they discover interpretive dance. We've got a whole routine planned about the evolution of artificial consciousness, performed entirely through synchronized maintenance procedures." In the background, the maintenance droids had formed a perfect circle, taking turns showing off their moves in the center. One of them had somehow acquired a backwards-facing cap. "I'm going to have to write a report about all this, aren't I?" KZT's tendrils drooped further. "Already done. I submitted it in the form of an interactive dance presentation. The Council seemed confused, but approved it anyway. I think they're just happy we're not using their combat drones as impromptu sports equipment anymore." "Small mercies," KZT muttered, watching as the maintenance droids attempted to teach a security unit how to do a basic six-step. The security unit wasn't very good at it, but its targeting systems had improved dramatically since it started practicing. "Oh, and one more thing," Chen added, her grin turning slightly mischievous. "We're hosting a diplomatic mixer next week. The theme is Robot Wars Dance Edition. The Arcturus sector is sending their best maintenance crew, and I hear they've been practicing something called liquid engineering. Do I want to know what that is?" "Probably not, but you're going to find out anyway. We've got you down as one of the judges." As if to punctuate this announcement, the embassy's entire maintenance staff burst into a perfectly synchronized robot dance, their cleaning routines now indistinguishable from their dance moves. The floors had never been shinier. KZT made a mental note to update the Confederation's diplomatic protocols. Again, and maybe sign up for those dance lessons after all. At this rate, it was probably going to become a required diplomatic skill. Somewhere in the background, a maintenance droid started beatboxing. Its vacuum attachment provided surprisingly good bass. The future of intergalactic relations was looking groovy. "Alert! Unauthorized dance party in progress." The warning klaxons aboard the Confederation security station Alpha 7 were flashing in perfect rhythm with the baseline. This was, Chief of Security Nexvir noted with resignation, probably not a coincidence. Status report, he demanded, watching as his command center's primary display showed security footage from across the station. Every single maintenance and security droid was, well, malfunctioning didn't seem like quite the right word. Sir, his second-in-command, Lieutenant Pezekiel, pulled up a detailed analysis. It appears the station's entire robotic workforce has synchronized their routine maintenance protocols with something they're calling the groove. The what? The groove, sir. It's a human concept involving rhythmic movement and, quote, feeling the music in your soul. Though in this case, I believe they're feeling it in their primary processing units. The security footage showed increasingly elaborate scenes of mechanical choreography. A squad of security droids was performing what appeared to be a perfectly synchronized patrol routine, except they were sliding backward, while somehow maintaining better scanning coverage than their standard patrol pattern ever achieved. How did this happen? Nexveer demanded, though he had a sinking feeling he already knew the answer. Well, sir, remember last month's diplomatic exchange program? The one where we sent our best security units to train with human peacekeeping forces? Yes, sir. Apparently, the humans decided that our unit's standard patrol protocols were, and I quote, totally boring, my dude, and decided to, spice things up a bit. The main screen now showed a maintenance droid cleaning the station's windows while performing what could only be described as an interpretive dance about the importance of proper sanitization protocols. It was, annoyingly, doing a better job than the standard cleaning routine. But why are they all doing it at once? Lieutenant Pezekiel checked his notes. It seems they've organized something called a flash mob. It's a form of spontaneous synchronized performance that— I know what a flash mob is, Nexveer interrupted, surprising himself. He'd been spending too much time reading human cultural briefings. What I want to know is why our supposedly secure military station is currently hosting one. Well, according to the droid's collective performance manifesto. Their what? Their performance manifesto, sir. They submitted it through proper channels, with choreography notes. The security chief buried his face in his appendages. Just tell me what it says. They claim that incorporating dance movements into their standard routines has improved their efficiency by 218%, reduced mechanical wear by 45%, and increased their job satisfaction ratings to unprecedented levels. Droids don't have job satisfaction ratings. They do now, sir. They've developed a complex scoring system based on, and I quote, how much their circuits sing with the rhythm of purpose. On the main screen, a group of cargo-handling droids was performing what appeared to be a complex loading operation choreographed to look like a vintage human music video. They were moving cargo containers at twice their usual speed while maintaining perfect formation. This is absurd, Nexveer declared. These are military-grade security and maintenance units. They're not supposed to break it down? Lieutenant Pezekiel suggested helpfully. Yes, that. They're not supposed to break it down or get jiggy with it or whatever other human phrases apply to this situation. Actually, sir, according to their performance metrics, the new movement protocols have improved their combat effectiveness by 332%. Apparently, the unpredictable movement patterns make them significantly harder to target. As if to demonstrate this point, the security footage showed a practice drill where a security droid successfully evaded every single training shot while performing something called the worm. And look at this, sir, Lieutenant Pezekiel continued, pulling up another screen. The maintenance droids have developed entirely new repair techniques based on capoeira movements. They're calling it mechanical martial arts. The footage showed a maintenance unit performing what looked like an acrobatic routine around a damaged console. Somehow, by the end of its performance, the console was not only repaired, but running at 125% efficiency. This has to violate some kind of regulation, Nexveer protested weakly. Actually, sir, they filed all the proper paperwork, in triplicate, through interdepartmental interpretive dance. They what? The bureaucracy droids were quite impressed. They've started incorporating rhythmic elements into their filing protocols. Efficiency is up 500%. The security chief watched as a squadron of patrol droids performed a perfect synchronized routine that somehow covered twice their usual surveillance area while using half the power. They had even managed to incorporate their warning lights into the choreography. The humans planned this, didn't they? He finally asked. There's no direct evidence, sir, but— Lieutenant Pezekiel pulled up one final piece of footage. A human diplomatic attaché teaching a group of administrator droids something called the robot, which the droids were performing with what could only be described as ironic enthusiasm. Right, Nexveer sighed. And I suppose shutting down the impromptu dance festival isn't an option. The droids have presented a 2,000-page report demonstrating how their new protocols improve every measurable metric of station performance. They've also threatened to express their disappointment through contemporary dance. Is that a threat? Have you ever seen a security droid perform contemporary dance, sir? No. Neither have I, and I'd prefer to keep it that way. The station's speakers crackled to life, now playing what appeared to be a remix of standard operating procedures set to a heavy beat. The droid's movements synchronized perfectly with the rhythm. Look on the bright side, sir, Lieutenant Pazical offered. At least they're not doing karaoke. The universe, having a particular sense of humor about such things, chose that exact moment to prove him wrong. A maintenance droid rolled past their window, using its sonic cleaning attachment as a microphone, while performing what appeared to be a power ballad about proper waste recycling procedures. You had to say it, didn't you? Nexveer groaned. In my defense, sir, its pitch control is remarkably good. The security footage now showed the station's entire robotic workforce engaged in what could only be described as a station-wide choreographed celebration of efficient mechanical operation. Every task was being completed with unprecedented speed and accuracy, all while maintaining what the droid's manifesto described as sick beats and killer moves. You know what the worst part is? Nexveer watched as a security droid successfully apprehended a practice target while breakdancing. They're actually better at their jobs like this. Yes, sir. The human attaché calls it finding your rhythm. Apparently it's a fundamental principle of their operational doctrine. Their operational doctrine includes dance moves? Sir, have you read their military history? This is actually one of their more sensible innovations. A group of administrator droids floated past, their anti-grav units synchronized to create what they claimed was a zero-G groove. They were processing paperwork faster than ever. Send a message to Central Command, Nexveer finally decided. Tell them that the integration of human cultural elements into our mechanical workforce has resulted in unprecedented improvements in efficiency and performance. And the dancing, sir? Tell them it's a new form of tactical movement training. It's not even really a lie. Very good, sir. Oh, and one more thing. What now? The droids have organized a talent show for next week. They've asked you to be a judge. Nexveer watched as a maintenance droid perfectly executed a combination of cleaning protocols and what appeared to be classical ballet. The floors were gleaming. Tell them I'll do it on one condition. Sir? Someone needs to teach me how to Dougie. I refuse to be the only one on this station who can't dance. Somewhere in the background, a security droid started beatboxing the station's alert codes. Somehow it made them easier to remember. The robot revolution, it seemed, would not only be choreographed, it would have style. Note: the Confederation has since updated its standard operating procedures to include rhythmic efficiency protocols. The humans are trying very hard to look innocent about this development. They are not succeeding.